Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast to stand nose to nose with Davy Jones and shove him inside his own damn locker. I'm Chris Daly, and today I have the pleasure of chatting with Mr. Fish Lee. How you doing, sir?
Man, I am doing good. I'm having a great day. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's nice and early here, and we're just going to get things rolling.
Good deal, man. I'm always ready to go.
All right, so first question. I've actually, we've been friends online for a while,
hmm
and I've never actually had a chance to talk to you in person like this. So this will be a good way to kind of, even though before the recording we kind of got to chat a little bit, but um icebreaker question, what's your favorite comfort TV show? Like if you just want to turn a show on to have like its
Oh,
background noise that you've
man.
seen a bunch of, that you don't have to pay attention to, but you know what's going to happen.
Oh, dude, that's a great question. I mean, like,
Thanks.
I watch a lot of that kind of stuff while I'm working because I
Yeah.
like the background noise.
Oh, for
But,
sure.
like, if it's too interesting, I'm watching TV and I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
if it's too complicated, like
Mhm.
if it's too subtle, and somebody like sneaks over and grabs the diamonds when you're not looking and nobody announces that,
Yeah.
like if I'm working, I missed it completely and I don't know what's going on. Like, so I love like NCIS because even if I miss something visual while I'm working, there's a point in the time because it's designed for old people that tend to fall asleep during the show. Gibbs is going to hit that button and he's going to stop the elevator and he's going to recap the entire show for the people that fell asleep. So if I missed, somebody sneaking around in the background, that's going to come up. He's going to explain everything. I'm going to know what the red herring was. I'm going to know where we're headed now. And I love NCIS for that fact. I can get all the information like a radio drama. He's going to repeat it all, and I'm not going to miss out on anything. So I
That's
dig that part.
that's that's awesome. That's super helpful. That way, I've been watching shows where I'll have to rewind because I missed something.
hmm
And that's super convenient.
Oh yeah.
Um, I know for me, if I'm trying to do some writing in the background and I just want some background noise, um, it's hard to turn on a new show I haven't seen yet because I really want to sit and focus on the new show.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, there are several shows, but there's one that I always throw to, and that's that '70s show.
Oh, that
That
70s show, how I Met Your Mother, things like that, I can watch all day long
Yep.
over and over again and just love them. Like I just went back through all of Perfect Strangers and
Oh, nice.
it finally came out on streaming. I've been looking for it forever to come out on streaming. And man, I loved it, dude.
Yeah, I
Just
remember
loved
watching that show growing up as a kid. That was a great show.
it.
But yeah, that '70s show is one that I can throw on and I don't have to listen because I know what's going to happen.
hmm
And, occasionally it will distract me, like you said, where I'll pick up and start kind of trying to watch. But that's one of those that, I mean, even one time I finished it all the way through and then I kind of just, I'm like, what else do I watch now? And so I just started it over again.
Oh yeah, I can watch it a dozen times, and I tend to because it comes on reruns, like on
Yeah.
the over the air channels. Like because
Mhm.
I've got an actual antenna and stuff because we live out in the country,
Yeah.
and I can get so many of the regular channels off of that without having to like go through satellite that I dig it. It's fine for me, and they have all these extra channels, and you get like that '70s show, all these reruns of stuff that I can watch all day long, except according to Jim. That kind of bugs me because when you watch like
Yeah.
4 or 5 episodes of that in a row, you realize just what an amazing toxic jerk this dude is. Like
Yep.
one episode a week might be funny. 4 or 5 in a row, that family's so messed up.
Yeah, man. I know my dad used to watch that show a lot. I never really paid attention too much, but I was always more a fan of his brother anyway.
hmm
All right, so for those of you that don't know, Mr. Fishley, when he gets on and does interviews like this, he likes to live draw while we're chatting. So he's actually drawing right now one character that I've created in my own little fictional world that I write, called Greetings from Parts Unknown. This is Wild Bill Hippo. He dresses like the gunslinger from the Dark Tower, but he has a zipper that he keeps in a holster on his hip that he uses to open up portals to other multiverses. So just kind of have an idea of what's going on here. But he's only Wild Bill Hippo to his friends. His name is William Potamus. His friends call him Wild Bill, but he doesn't have any friends. That's just the name that the media has dubbed him.
Oh,
So
that's beautiful. I love that so much.
he's kind of a complicated guy, but he's a very simple man. All right. So let's get into things. Fish. So with Fueled by Weird, it's the concept that I came up with about, everybody has things that they're interested in. They might not necessarily be nerdy or not. It's just things that they like doing that makes them who they are.
Hmm.
So for you, sir, I want to know what kind of things fill your weird.
Oh man. I love storytelling and interesting stories. Like that's part of why I love indie comics so much, because they will go in such weird directions sometimes,
Oh, for
and
sure.
you new things are going to happen, strange weird things are going to happen, and you don't have a bunch of corporate overlords worrying about what this is going to do to pajama sales, or the cartoon that's coming out, or you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You can just have your character jump dimensions or go through time, or go to somebody else's world all of a sudden, or whatever you want to do, and you can create Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Usagi Yojimbo or Judge Dredd or all of these weird things. And I just love it. That's what I always wanted to do when I was a kid. And now it's my full-time job. So I couldn't be happier.
That's awesome. And speaking of it being your full-time job, like I've said before, I'm a huge fan of your art style. I've seen you create tons of amazing art for lots of other people. Um, and now you've started getting into doing your own comics, which I think is fantastic. So what is it exactly that got you interested in art and making comics in the first place?
I mean, it's kind of a tough question because there's several different things that happened that got me where I am. Like part of for those that don't know, and it surprises me still to this day how many people don't know, but I'm a neurodivergent artist and I have ADHD, OCD. I'm on the autism spectrum. I have a severe case of Tourette's syndrome, which had me in a wheelchair, unable to walk, talk, and see most days for like 15 years because I just
Oh
shook
wow.
so constantly. I can't imitate the way that I used to shake because I've given myself so many concussions over the years from shaking so violently. If I imitate it, if I shake my head no too hard, I will give myself another concussion. So I have to be careful when I talk about how it used to be because instinctively I want to imitate it. I can't do that, or I'll be laid up for the next 2 days and I got a book to pitch. So I can't do that. I got interviews every day to do.
Sure.
Um, so, a lot of people don't know that about me. Uh, which as a kid that came with lots of weird things like hyper focus and stuff like that, so I got really obsessed with superheroes and comic books and things like that, and the backstories and their real names and all of the characters around them and their backstories. So early on I had like this encyclopedic knowledge of it. I was obsessed, like a lot of us on the spectrum are, with this one particular thing, and that was the thing that I loved. So that didn't help pushing me into comics. Like that basically was my foundation as a kid. It started with superheroes and stuff as a kid, and watching Super Friends and all that stuff growing up Saturday mornings. And but also, like, I think about things fairly logically for somebody whose brain works as weird as mine. So I wanted to be an engineer growing up. Like that was what I planned on doing. I wanted to be an inventor. I wanted to make cool things. And then I saw the Goonies and I fell in love with Data on the Goonies, and I wanted to be him when I grew up. Man, he was my idol. I wanted to
Yeah.
build that coat. And my mother, the wise saint that she was, decided that she wasn't going to take me to the junkyard to buy random stuff to make my coat out of unless I had a detailed set of plans made first, which is brilliant because she knew I would just bring home every cool thing that I saw. And, I'd like, oh, I can use this radiator, I swear. And,
Yeah.
so she made me draw out plans. So I spent all day and
Mhm.
night, every day, drawing out plans for this coat. And then Inspector Gadget hits, and oh my God, now I want to be Inspector Gadget. And so I got to figure out how am I going to strap a lawnmower engine to my head on a football helmet so that I can fly. And then, Robotech and Voltron and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, now I got to figure out how can I build a giant mech out of lawnmower engines and junk that I can find in the junkyard. And my plans kept evolving and kept evolving until they got so ridiculous that I realized, like, I'm never going to be able to do this without some kind of magic power source, like an arc reactor or something. And my chances of stumbling across one of those are pretty slim. So I finally decided that, instead of actually being a hero, or by this time a villain, because I had realized there were no, and this is the funny black and white way that my brain thinks. I realized that there were no villains for me to fight if I decided to become a supervillain, and it seemed immoral to take all my ideas and plans and give them to criminals so they could be supervillains so I would have somebody to fight. That didn't seem right. And then I realized, there's no superheroes either. So if I became like Doctor Doom, nobody could stop me. And so that became my goal from like middle school on. I was going to be a supervillain. And
Nice.
then I realized, I'm never going to be able to have the kind of power source that I need. I'm never going to be able to have the money for some of the equipment that I'm going to need. I'm never going to look good in spandex at this point. And so I finally gave up and decided, you know what, I'm just going to draw comics because, by this point, I had mastered all these skills in drawing this stuff kind of by accident. Like, it wasn't my intent, but that's where we ended up at. And, you know, my brain is wired differently than most, and it gives me a lot of trouble sometimes, but it also has given me a lot of gifts. Like, I spit out new ideas faster than anybody I've ever seen. I put out work faster than just about anybody. I've only seen a couple of people like D Fish that can keep up with me in speed wise. Um, and all that comes from my brain being wired differently, but of course
Yeah.
sometimes I don't get to sleep for days, or it's not always fun and games, but
Yeah.
it does have its bonuses.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know, like for me, when you talk about being hyper focused on one subject, for me, I think I have something similar with professional wrestling because I know more than most normal people should know about professional wrestling, to the point where people will message me and ask me random questions or ask me for advice or just stuff like that. It's a blessing and a
Yeah,
curse, I guess you could say.
absolutely, I get
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
for sure. All right, so I mentioned that I've seen you do art for a really long time. Well, I don't say a really long time, but the last couple of years that we've been friends. And I've seen that you've now started branching out into your own books. The first one that I remember seeing is Greenzone.
Oh yeah.
How did you come up with the idea for Greenzone?
See, this is going to seem kind of unfair when I say it, but and I've come up with a lot of story ideas in other ways, but both Greenzone and the Mighty Kaaw both came to me out of dreams. And it kind of feels unfair because, like, Greenzone, I had a dream that was like an excerpt out of the like Netflix series or something about Greenzone.
Yeah,
And they explained so much of what was going on in that dream that I had that I woke up and I started drawing, and pretty soon I had the entire world fleshed out and how it worked, and all I had seen some of the characters already in my dream, so that was a no-brainer. And a couple of them took a little bit longer to work out, but like Virgil, the big 8 foot tall lizard monster dude, he
yeah,
came out fully formed. And I get it. That sucks to hear for other people that work really hard on an idea, and I've done it too. But yeah, these two particularly came out just out of a dream, almost fully formed.
yeah.
And
Virgil is awesome. I think he's definitely. I mean, you had a lot of really good characters in Greenzone, but I think, I don't know what it is, but I have an affinity for the bigger, like bulkier characters.
mhm.
And so I definitely really like him a lot, just the big muscle guys.
And like all the characters, especially in Greenzone, but all of my characters really are all some variation of me in some way, some aspect of my personality or trauma or history or whatever taken to an extreme
Yeah.
and given life. And Virgil is absolutely what it feels like to be bigger than everybody else in the world and be treated like you're a big scary monster when you're not, and have
Yeah.
people be afraid of you for no reason, and have certain expectations of what you are and what you can accomplish simply based on your size and what you look like and their assumptions, and never considering who you actually are. And then like Bellamy, who is this tiny little like 5 foot nothing 98 pound wisp of a woman in Greenzone and is covered in razor sharp quills all over her body, and if she bumps into somebody on the subway and stabs them accidentally, she could go to prison for the rest of her life. If she stabs you with these quills, you can get very, very sick because they pick up all the contaminants in the air, so they're basically poisoned.
Yeah.
And like, she lives in constant fear, and you can see it in her body language. She's always got her arms tucked in, she's always looking over her shoulder because she's so uncomfortable in her own skin. And she is absolutely what it feels like to have your nervous system turned up to 15 all the time and everything hurts,
Yeah.
and what it's like to be afraid of hurting everybody that you're around. Because like, if a normal person steps on your toe, it hurts. If 6.5 feet tall 400 pounds of me steps on your toe, it's broken. And I've been hypersensitive about that my whole life, and have actually hurt people that I dearly care about because I tripped and fell into them. And so she's that aspect of my personal insecurities and fears taken to the extreme. And and everybody is. Danny Kim in the book, is one of those, hey, how are you? Good to see you. Hey, there's my guy. He's always fast talking. He's always friendly. Everybody's his best friend. He is absolutely what it's like for me to mask in front of neurotypicals to try and make everything run smoother, and not just sit awkwardly in my corner drawing all day, but to put on that persona of, hey, it's your Uncle Fish, glad to see you, because it makes everything run smoother. And so they're all me in some way or another, but that makes them interesting and lets me make the characters deeper and richer and makes them more rewarding for me to write.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely it's easier to connect with a character when, the creator has definitely the personal pulls out of their personality and puts it into the character. It makes it
Hmm.
a lot more relatable for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what it feels like to be a 5 foot tall 98 pound woman,
Right.
but I absolutely know what it's like to be afraid of everything around you. I know what it's like to be afraid of hurting the people around you. I know what it's like to be uncomfortable in your own skin. So I put all of that into her, and it's been really touching to me to see how many other ladies have been able to look at this character and identify with her. And that makes me feel good as a writer, that it's connecting with people on a deeper level. And that that brings me joy right there.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So you mentioned you have a book to promote right now, and that's The Mighty Kaaw, which
Absolutely.
looks incredible. I just read the proof that you sent me this morning, and man, I'm so stoked for that series, man. It's gonna be so good.
Yeah.
So I know you have your show, School of Fish, where you stream online and you draw live and have chats with people. And from my understanding, that's where Ka was born. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, largely, and like the main overarching villain of the show, I absolutely created on the show by randomly rolling up powers, and we ended up with this really amazing character. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, this could tie into that, and this could tie into this, that ties into that, and that, oh, I've got it. We've got the big bad. And like, I've worked on the pages on the show, on the art stream, and like as we were talking about like how you can add little bitty things into a sentence or into the background that tell you so much about a world without having to go into all the details of it. And I was given some examples from other books that I'd done, and I was working on this page and we were tossing out ideas, and we ended up having one of the pirates in the space pirates in the book, these weird bird alien looking things, and he ends up pulling a bug out of his hair and eating it. And like that little move in the background that's completely unrelated to the conversation they're having tells you so much about these guys and their cleanliness and this status of the ship, and like tells you so much about them with that one little move, that's really interesting. And I
Yeah.
love to give as much of those tips and advice and help that I can possibly give, that I know about storytelling and that I've picked up over time. And like Kaw, like I said with Greenzone, he came out of a dream, which again seems kind of unfair that it came so easily. But I'm friends with Stephen Butler, who worked at Marvel during the Spider-Man clone saga and is
Mm.
doing a bunch of stuff for Archie and has worked with Disney and all kinds of stuff. And he's doing his own Untamed Realms Barbarian story. And so we're friends. We send each other pictures of what we're doing all day. He's sending me all these barbarian pictures all day, and he's sending me all these snippets from old cartoons and stuff that we loved growing up as a kid, and like the Flash Gordon serials. And I'm laying down for a nap and I'm thinking about how much I loved the Hawkmen from Flash Gordon, and I've always wanted to do a winged character, but hawks are kind of done to death. And I was like, even owls, which I love, are done to death. There's so many
Yeah.
like midnight owls and black owls and stuff, which are cool, but I don't want to do another one of those. And as I'm drifting off to sleep, I was thinking, you know, my favorite bird's always been the crow. And then I start to dream, and all of a sudden I see Kaaw, the Crowmagnon, screeching in front of me in all of his powerful glory. And I wake up from that nap and I run into the other room and I start drawing him down. And my very first sketch of him is like 98% what he ended up looking like in the end. I changed his jawline a little bit, and I did several variations. Like I really played around with this one to try and see, did I want to do something other than just my first draft? And other than enlarging his hands and putting pants on him, it's basically the same dude that it was in the first drawing. And I got lucky that way. But this story in particular, like, and Greenzone was the same way. But this story, when the idea hit me, it's almost like somebody just kicked over a fire hydrant and it just started flooding my brain and I couldn't stop. By the end of the next day, I had 20 something issues outlined. I had the first issue
Wow.
written. By the end of 30 days from that nap, I have the first issue finished, ready to go to print, sent to the printers. I have the Kickstarter set up, ready to launch. I have a Patreon set up. I have a Teespring account with merchandise and stuff in it. And I illustrated a client's book in that time. But like, I haven't been able to shut it off. And the ideas just keep coming. And he's so much fun to write for. And Kaaw has these three tenets that just tell you everything you need to know about who he is. Kaaw fears no man, Kaaw bows to no man, and Kaaw falls to no man. And that's basically his life story, in a bird show. He he won't submit to anything. He's on his world of Zion. All the beings are evolved from different species of birds, and there's like the raptor clan and the owl tribe and all kinds of different groups that have evolved from different birds.
Yeah.
And the Cro-Magnons are looked at as the least evolved because they're bigger and stronger and faster, and they look a little more brutish. um, they don't come off as intelligent, but they are very wise and they pay close attention and they can pick up things very quickly. And the ruling class was afraid of them because they're so big and powerful, that they've enslaved them and they bind their wings. And if you get caught breaking free of your bindings and flying, then they'll strip your wings off of you. They're really brutal to them. And they train them to be everything from like house servants to cleaning the reactors and all kinds of things. And if you're not smart enough, or you're too feral or violent to be trained to be a good slave, then you get fed to the arenas to fight and die for sport, for entertainment for the masses. And Kaaw got sent to the arena as a fledgling and has been fighting every day of his life ever since. And it has honed him into like the galaxy's deadliest warrior. And, without even meaning to, the ruling class made their greatest enemy and the deadliest weapon. And then he like accidentally starts a slave revolt, and there's this giant uprising. And then the angelic council that rules his world, that's the most technologically advanced, they have to hire some space pirate slavers to capture him and get him off world because they can't have him here anymore, he's too dangerous. And
Yeah.
that's the first two pages, and then it's off to the running after that. Like, the story's quick, it's action packed, it's kind of like, the early Saturday morning cartoons when I was a kid. It's like, when we last saw our hero, he was dangling off of a cliff. And then we have
Yeah.
bam, action, save the princess, slay the monsters, boom, boom, boom. And then it's like, oh no, how will our hero survive? Tune in next time. Like, I want to keep it fast and energetic and fun, and keep it in a format that I can get out to backers quickly and cheaply. And like, if it wasn't for having to stop to run a Kickstarter, I could get out 12 issues of Kaaw a year real easy. So that's what I'm shooting for. I want to get as many issues out as possible as quickly as I can. Get this stuff out of my brain and into y'all's brain.
That's amazing. I have plenty of room in there for Ka and for everything else that you make. So speaking of that, you had said that you have like 20 issues lined out or outlined out. Um, do you see like a big, long, drawn out thing for Ka? I mean, do you have kind of anything past that
Oh,
planned out?
oh yeah. I mean, like, I've got plans past it. Like, some things kind of take the long approach, like
Yeah,
the big bad, you will see him pulling strings in the background, but Kaaw still doesn't even know he exists at this point. He doesn't know he's the one that's causing all this mayhem and bringing people from other worlds to come and try and destroy him, because the big bad's afraid of Kaaw taking his power away and whatnot. And he knows that Kaaw's unstoppable and doesn't want him on his world. And so, like, there's some things that take the long approach, but also, like, I want you to be able to enjoy every issue on its own. And so, like, there'll be a little bit of fill into like how we got here, then the story, and then, oh no, what's going to happen? Tune in next week. But like, I want that part in the middle to be totally enjoyable on its own. And that's one
yeah,
of the things that I love about Kaaw and why he fits that format so much better, because like Greenzone deals with all kinds of political issues and everybody's relationships are intertwined, and all, like, I need time to make you care about these characters so that you weep when they weep and you laugh when they laugh. Like, Kaaw's simple, Kaaw's to the point. Kaaw's all about kicking butt and taking names and saving the princess. Like, this is real easy to understand stuff. So, we don't have to delve too deeply into what is my motivation for slaying the giant dragon. Like, he can just come in and kick butt. And
mhm,
we do find out more about him. And like, when we hit 3 grand, I'm releasing the source book as an add-on. And I just got to tell you, when I wrote Kaaw's introduction in the source book and talked about like how he got his name, I wept. Like, it it's emotional. There's depth to it, but also, like, you don't have to necessarily like read every issue to be able to enjoy it. And that's one of the things that kind of stops me from wanting to, like, say, go pick up an issue of Spider-Man, because I know to understand this issue of Spider-Man, I'm going to need 16 other issues to know how we got here and who are we talking about and who's this guy that I've never seen before. And I miss the good old days of just being able to pick up an issue and enjoy it. And I love the long form storytelling, and I do some of it myself, but also,
mhm.
like, I want new readers to be able to come in and enjoy it too.
And not feel overwhelmed by having to,
Yeah.
back for all the other issues.
Hmm.
Kind of like the old episodes of the Adam was Batman, where the whole story was resolved by the end.
Yeah.
That makes
And there's a
sense.
cool cliffhanger, but if you don't care, you don't
That's
have to come back for that one. Like, you got a
yeah.
story you can enjoy,
Mhm.
and if you want to come back, awesome. We'd love to have you. I
Yeah.
loved that about that.
Yeah, and you definitely do leave it on a good cliffhanger. So I am very ready for the next one. um, so the Kickstarter goes till next week, and you funded on your birthday. Congratulations.
That was
That's very amazing.
that was awesome. That was an amazing birthday present.
And then you
Took a lot
said,
of stress out of that birthday dinner, I got to tell you.
yeah, I bet. So you had said, if you reach a certain goal, you're going to release the source book. Do you have any other? And I can't remember. I'm sure you've already put it in the Kickstarter. I just can't remember if you have any other stretch goals for if we have any other goals that we haven't met yet.
Yeah, at 3,000, I'm going to be releasing the source book, and
Mhm.
at 4,000, I'm going to be releasing issue 2 as a pre-order, which I'll be able to get done relatively quickly, and will be coming out next. And hopefully, what I'm planning on is the next couple of issues I'm going to be releasing on my Patreon first, and so the backers on Patreon will be able to get those like month after month, and then after I have like a stack of books, I'm going to go back to Kickstarter again for everybody that didn't back the Patreon that wants to catch up could get issues 2, 3, and 4, of Kaaw then. Um, but I'm hoping to move over to Patreon because I really think there's potential there to use it like a subscription service, especially as
Yeah,
fast as I am. And I'm a one-man show. I don't have to work around a whole bunch of other people's schedules. I don't have to worry about my colorist, also as a soccer coach and a Cub Scout leader, like with a full-time job.
yeah,
I do it all myself and it's my day job. So I can get it done relatively quickly in a way that a lot of other people in indie comics just don't have the luxury of. Nothing
sure.
against them. It's just I've got a lot of benefits being a one-man show and being able to do it all. And so I'm hoping if we can move over to that subscription type service, I can save myself the time and effort of having to set up a Kickstarter, because as much as I love Kickstarter and am so grateful for everybody that has supported us on Kickstarter over the years, and I love backing comics on Kickstarter, I love the community on Kickstarter, but it takes a lot out of you to run one too.
Oh, I'm sure.
And like the time that I've spent setting up the Kickstarter and running the Kickstarter, I could have got the next 2 issues of Call Out.
Oh, wow.
And like it takes a good bit out of me. And this is basically all I can do for this time. Like that's part of the reason it's a short Kickstarter, because I can't do anything else during this time. And like
Right.
I can only go so long, but without, making pages to pay the bills to, you know, so
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that's
I
part of
know I've never actually done a Kickstarter myself, but I know I've helped share and spread the word of other Kickstarters. And I know just that alone sometimes can be exhausting, let alone having to have nothing on going on, but pushing your own thing for forever or
hmm
for the whole month or whatever it goes on. Um, do you have any other projects coming up?
Right now, I am working on the next issue of the Sentinels for Standard Comics, which will be I think it's launching on Kickstarter pretty soon, and I'm gonna have it wrapped up by the end of June for sure. That's what I'm contracted to. I know I'll probably have it out earlier than that, but it'll be done long before probably the Kickstarter's done and it's time to go to print,
Sure.
because Roy's good about that. Roy's the one that taught me about, you know, having your books ready to go before you go to Kickstarter. And the only reason that he's even going to launch before I'm 100% finished is because he knows I'm so fast and we've done so many books together at this
Yeah.
point. He knows it's not a question of whether I'm going to get it done or not. He knows I'm not going to flake on him or anything. But yeah, that's going to be coming next. And then I'm going to be going straight into the next issue of Kaaw and probably the next issue after that. Then probably, I think I might leave it up to vote by my Patreon supporters to see if the one after that's going to be the next Greenzone or the next Kaaw, because the folks on Patreon are the ones that are going to be getting it first. So I'm going to
Yeah.
let them start to vote on what the next book that I work on after that. And I'm hoping by the end of this year I can get to doing predominantly just my books, and that'll give me the freedom to be able to work on when I want to work on another book. It can be something that I'm passionate about and I really care about, and not I've loved all the books I've worked on and I've been really lucky, but sometimes you're like, oh, I got bills to pay, I need to get something else scheduled.
Yeah.
Don't really care what it is. I've been lucky that it's always been cool stuff, but I'm not always going to be that lucky.
Yeah,
So
for
being
sure.
able to do my books and get my stories out there and then work on the stuff that I love with other people that I get to collaborate with, that's the dream job right there. Man.
Like the best of both worlds. You get your stuff out and then you get to help other people get their stuff out.
hmm
So you kind of still hit both ends of the spectrum, really.
And I have got to collaborate with some of the most awesome people on some of the most awesome stories. And some of these characters I love absolutely as much as I love my own characters,
Mm.
which every once in a while can make me a little bit difficult because I'm like, no, 5-star wouldn't do that. But I try and be understanding. But yeah, that sometimes I can get a little difficult when I get too invested because,
Sure.
I love them and I want the book to be as best as it could possibly be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so I guess final thoughts. What's a bit of advice you'd give to an up and coming creator or a creator that maybe is kind of hesitant to get started in doing something or doesn't really know what to do? Like what's some advice you'd give to creators out there or just anyone that wants to start doing something that they're passionate about?
Get started doing it. I know everybody is so hung up about, well, what if I do it and it sucks? Well, I love you. It's going to suck. Your first book is going to suck. You're going to screw
Yeah,
up. You're going to make mistakes. I know I did. I I love T-Man and Hyperstrike, which I'd done a lot of small like ash cans before that and other projects, but that was my first like officially printed and published book. And I look back at it now and I'm like, ooh, oh, I could have done that a lot better. But it's a good book. People loved it, people enjoyed it, and it got me out there and it got me busy doing other people's books.
yeah,
And and each one I got better and better and better, and it goes easier and faster. And nothing will get you better at your artwork than actually making pages, like regularly making pages. Even if you're just illustrating Mary Had a Little Lamb or whatever old script you can get your hands on,
yeah,
making pages is the best teacher. I have drawn as my job ever since like junior high. And I have never increased artistically the way I have over the last like 5 years that I've been doing this full time. I've just increased exponentially, but I've gone from drawing like one t-shirt image a day or one logo or one, whatever a day to doing like 6 or 7, 8, 10, 12 pages a day, depending on what I'm working on, with 4 to 6 to 12 panels per page and a billion hands and a billion faces over and over and over again. And I just got so much better, so much faster because of this type of doing it over and over and over. I'm not afraid. When I went into my first issue of Sentinels, I was like, oh my God, he's got so many female characters in this book. And I rarely draw females for whatever reason. Like my kids didn't ask for it. My kids asked for Spider-Man and the Hulk. And so I drew a lot of that.
sure.
They didn't really ask for a lot of Wonder Woman. Um, I was like, I know how to draw women, but man, I haven't had to do one in a book. Now I love drawing women and I love all kinds of different body shapes and faces and noses. And, it's second nature to me now. I'm not afraid of drawing hands or feet or any of these things that used to intimidate me because I
Yeah,
do it a billion times a day. And the other big tip is to guard your reputation because it is more precious than gold. So you always need to be communicating with the clients. You always need to be honest with the clients. And like, if you don't have time for it, you need to admit that you don't have time for it. Not, yeah, I'll figure it out and then be late. Um, and you always need to do your best work. It doesn't matter if the client's a jerk or if the time limit was short or they weren't paying very much. The reader doesn't know that. And you're not going to be standing over their shoulder be like, yeah, well, you don't know what he said to me in a text message. It doesn't matter. The reader sees your pages and your name, and that's the kind of work you do. And you don't want that on your reputation. And you
yeah,
dang sure don't want it to be inconsistent. You don't want crappy pages over here because they paid $20 a page and really slick pages over here because they paid $200 a page. And then the readers are looking at that saying, well, I'd like to hire him, but you never know what you're going to get with this dude. They don't know the difference. They don't know
yeah,
what went on behind the scenes. All they know is this is your name and your work. So make it the best you can in the time that you have. And because that kind of stuff is what goes towards building your reputation. And that's why people know they can trust me to do a good job and know that I'm going to get the book out there because, I'm not going to pitch fit in the middle of it and stomp my feet and say, no, I'm out of here. I'm not going to do this and leave them
yeah.
hanging. Like that's my reputation. And I can't have that. Even the toughest clients I've ever dealt with, would tell you glowing recommendations about working with me because I gave them my absolute best, and sometimes even better because they were so difficult and I
Yeah.
didn't want the work to suffer. So sometimes they got a little bit of extra for nothing
Sure.
because, I didn't want to let the page suffer just because I might be angry with them right this second.
Yeah. That's definitely good advice. And I know, the advice you gave of, your first thing's going to suck, so you just need to jump in and do it. I mean, this show is a perfect example of that because, I've been trying to do something like this for a long time, but I've just been terrified of I can't do it until it's perfect. Then finally, I mean, even being on video, that's something I've been completely terrified of doing now. And now, talking to you, I've done two of these now, both on video. So, I mean, you just got to if you can't let the fear of it sucking stop you if you really want to do it.
You're never going to get to okay. You're never going to get to good. You're never going to get to amazing.
Yeah.
You're never going to get to, man, I wish I could be like him, if you don't like let it suck first and let it be
Yep.
hard and figure it out as you go along and increase as you go. Like I'm fixing to move my whole office around to a different room in the house and change some things around just because like I've been able to increase the way I do things and my production value as we go. But now I'm noticing things like, because I'm on the same electrical circuit as our deep freeze, because I'm in this room, every once in a while I get a click in the video. That's a tiny thing. That's not nearly as bad as the problems I had when I started in my bedroom with my phone stacked up on a pile of books on the bed. Like these are tiny problems now, but I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I can fine tune that and we can move and I can have better control over the lighting and I can do this and I can make a cooler backdrop. And so, yeah, you keep improving as you go step by step.
Yeah, for sure. All right, sir. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. It's been an awesome chat. Do you want to take a few minutes to plug your stuff?
Absolutely. Thank you everybody that tuned in. I really enjoyed being here. And of course, I am Mr. Fish from Mr. Fish Comics. You can find me everywhere on the internet at Mr. Fish Comics, whether it's .com or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. And you can go to gomrfish.com. That will take you straight to my Kickstarters. And right now, that's the Mighty Kaaw, the Crowmagnon issue 1, which is available until June 2nd. And it is my pride and joy. It is a love letter to all things 80s and 90s that we grew up, all the cartoons that we love, He-Man and Thundercats and Space Ghost and all those things mixed together. It is fun. It is action packed. It is wonderful. I love it. There's 6 days left to go, and we're just like $500 away from hitting that first stretch goal and releasing the source book, which is going to have all kinds of awesome information about his home world and other characters that are going to be coming up later on in the series. So you're going to get sneak peeks about all that stuff. So absolutely go check it out at gomrfish.com, and everything else is Mr. Fish Comics.
Definitely go check it out. I just, like I said earlier, I read it this morning, and it's definitely one you're not going to want to miss. Housekeeping for me, check this out and all other stuff on geek-network.com, GeeksAZ on Twitter and IG, Geek Network on Facebook, where you'll find this show and all sorts of other shows on those social medias, plus lots of other nerd news and promotions and all sorts of other stuff, because we're here to make the internet a more positive place. Check me out on CD is Weird on Instagram. And the music at the start and the end of the show is from my friend Chris's band, Polygon Horizon. The name of the song is Pizza Force. Definitely go check them out on Bandcamp. He's an incredible artist. Check out some of his other music. And I forgot to do this last time, so I want to apologize to these guys. The Fueled by Weird logo is done by my friend Chris Chandler. Go check him out at Chandler Doma on Instagram and Twitter. And the cartoon logo and the cartoon of me is done by my friend Mike Belcher. He's also an incredible artist. You find him at Mike Belcher1 on Twitter and at Mike W_Belcher on Instagram. And remember, kids, to embrace the things that fuel your weird and always geek responsibly.